hip-hop megastar ASAP Rocky is at the height of his career. He's going to the Met Fashion Gala Awards. He's got 2 babies with Rihanna. He's even making a movie with my twin, Denzel Washington. However, he's also currently being prosecuted in a criminal trial since he's accused of firing his handgun at a longtime friend and business associate. Now, his lawyer is really struggling on how to properly advise Rocky. So his lawyer consulted with animated icon Bullwinkle, who told him to say the following.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. See? Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! Wrong hat.
So, please join me in a legal deep dive into the criminal prosecution of ASAP Rocky. What's good, people? You know, it boggles my mind when I see celebrities, athletes, musicians, entertainers who are at the pinnacle of their career risk everything out of sheer stupidity. And I put ASAP Rocky in that category. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not expressing an opinion as to whether or not he's guilty or not guilty of the crime for which he's accused. However, even just based on the statements made by his own attorney in court, the main reason ASAP Rocky is looking down the barrel of a 24-year criminal sentence is based on his own sheer stupidity. And honestly, based on everything being said in court, he's actually lucky to be alive. Now, to make sure everyone understands the landscape and the facts in the trial, ASAP Rocky is accused of firing his 9mm handgun at his longtime friend and business associate after they got into a heated argument in the middle of the street. Now, his friend wasn't shot, none of the bullets hit him. However, he did claim that the bullets grazed his knuckles. Since this actually happened on a public roadway in the middle of the street, a lot of what happened is actually recorded and captured on video by public cameras. Now, the video doesn't show everything that happened, but it does put both parties in the street. It shows a picture of Rocky wearing a hoodie and another photo with Rocky holding something that appears to be a handgun. Now, what's interesting is his friend waited 2 days to report it to the police. And oddly enough, when he went to the police, he had a handful of 6 bullet casings, which he said he picked up from the scene, which were the bullet casings from when Rocky shot at him. Now, local police did confirm they received a call about shots fired at the time of the incident. However, when they went to the scene, they couldn't find any other shell casings at all to indicate that a weapon had been fired. Also, from the shell casings that were turned in by Rocky's friend and business associate, they could not find any fingerprints that tied the shell casings to Rocky. And when they arrested Rocky, they never found any type of 9mm handgun that could have been used in the shooting. All right, so that's the victim's version. Let's see if we can smell what The Rock is cooking. Now, The Rock admits that they had an altercation, and he admits he fired a gun. However, The Rock says it wasn't a real gun, but it was a starter pistol with blanks. Now, it is important to note that the police, in addition to not finding the 9mm, they also didn't find a starter pistol when they arrested Rocky. I think that not finding the starter pistol is more significant than not finding the 9mm, because finding the starter pistol will be more consistent with The Rock's defense that it wasn't a real gun, he fired a starter pistol. However, by not finding either weapon, I think it allows the prosecution to argue that Rocky actually got rid of the weapon before he got arrested. So now let's do a deep dive into my thoughts on the trial as a whole. Well, first and foremost, I think this position by the defense that Rocky fired a starter pistol, not a real gun, I just don't think that dog's gonna hunt. I mean, anybody knows that walking around with a fake gun, acting like it's a real gun, will get you killed. And the whole idea that a hip hop artist that lives that lifestyle, as we all know, hip hop artists love their Second Amendment right, but for a hip hop artist who is involved in that lifestyle to be carrying around a fake gun and to be known to be carrying around a fake gun is just stupid. I just don't think anyone's going to believe that. I think the only way a jury would believe that is if the defense presented a lot of evidence to corroborate that Rocky carried around a fake starter pistol. And when I say corroboration, I mean witnesses that know him and say, yeah, this is what he does. He doesn't like real guns. It's just part of the lifestyle. And when I say witnesses, I mean people besides Rihanna, okay? I would also want to see some other documentation, perhaps if he can demonstrate a receipt or find a receipt where he purchased a starter pistol or something along those lines. That would be helpful. But I do think that's an uphill battle without strong corroboration. Now, what I do think Rocky has going for him is really this entire case of the prosecution rests on the word of that one witness. So that witness's credibility, corroboration or lack thereof is critical for the prosecution and for the defense. It's the classic phrase of a he said, she said, except in this case it's a he said, he said. That's always a crapshoot for either side. I've told plenty of clients over the years that, a jury can convict you on the word of one person. They don't need any corroboration. They could find that person credible even if they're lying, and you can be convicted on that one person's word. A very scary place for a defendant to be in because it's a crapshoot. Now, of course, Rocky's lawyers are going to portray this witness, this victim, as someone who's just looking for a payday, someone who's got a history of beef with Rocky, who's jealous of Rocky, and all of this culminated in an opportunity for him to shake Rocky down, maybe extort him out of money. And from what I've seen from the trial so far, I don't think a jury is going to either like this witness/victim or sympathize with him. I just don't think they're going to see him as a real victim. I mean, he wasn't shot. He claims that the bullets grazed his knuckles. I don't think they're going to believe that. He's not some type of random victim that was shot or mugged or assaulted. He and Rocky clearly have a long-standing relationship. He clearly was not afraid for his life. This whole thing with waiting 2 days to go to the police, that's not someone that really feels like they were a victim of a crime, not in these circumstances. And I think they're going to be very, very suspicious of him taking the shell casings to the police department as opposed to the police finding the shell casings independently. Also, his demeanor on the witness stand is not great for the prosecution. He gives inconsistent versions of the details of what happened. He's very combative with the defense attorney. He's a smart aleck with the defense attorney. Those things do not endear a witness to a jury. When you're the prosecutor, you want the jury to sympathize with your victim. You want them to feel sorry for your victim and want to hold somebody responsible for what happened to them. I really don't think this witness is going to give the jury that kind of vibe. The defense also presented recordings at trial of the alleged victim making statements to a third party, talking about getting paid or using this case as a way to get a payday, saying things such as if he got money, he would disappear and the prosecutors couldn't find him. And when the witness/victim was confronted with those recordings, what did he say? It wasn't him. Fake news. Also, oddly enough, the victim and Rocky exchanged a series of text messages after the incident. And that's very odd because on one hand, he's saying this guy shot at him, and the next thing you know, instead of going to the police for 2 days, he's engaged into a little text feud. That is not conduct that I think a jury is going to say is consistent with someone being a victim. Now, what is interesting about the text messages are no one really says anything to indicate that they're lying about what happened. I mean, when you read the text, what's funny is they both seem to think their version of what happened is actually correct. Because on one hand, you have the victim making statements to Rocky to the effect of, you tried to take me from my family, things like that. And you have a Rocky making statements saying, you're gonna try to lie on me, do what you have to do. You know that it didn't happen that way. So it's interesting that no one really says anything to suggest that they're lying about what happened. As I said earlier, I'm just really not crazy about the defense strategy about it being a starter pistol. If it was me, I think it'd be a lot more plausible to take the position for the defense that Rocky and this guy are longtime friends and business associates. They have gotten into many heated arguments over the years. I'm certain that they can probably find witnesses to say that. And on this particular occasion, after the heated argument, Rocky took his handgun, fired shots up in the air, and that was the end of it. He didn't think it was going to go anything further than that. And the next thing you know, his friend is going to the police saying Rocky tried to shoot him. I think that's a much more plausible defense that would involve Rocky having to admit that he fired a weapon in the air, which might be a crime in itself to discharge a firearm in public. However, I still think he has a better chance of winning on that theory as opposed to this, it was a fake gun, I carry around a fake gun thing. Sometimes when you're trying a case or you're a defendant, it's not always all or nothing. It's not always either guilty or straight not guilty. Sometimes taking a strategy of getting convicted of a lesser minor offense is a much better way to go because you minimize your exposure, you minimize your risk, and instead of risking, either 24 years in prison or nothing, you kind of cap your risk at maybe a very small light sentence like probation or a fine or something like that. So that's a strategy I would use in this case. So the $1 million question, how would I vote on this case if I was on the jury? Well, I gotta call it like I see it. I would find them both guilty of being morons and wasting the time of law enforcement and prosecutors who could spend their time prosecuting a real case with real victims. However, I would impanel a special jury to determine which one was a bigger moron. Rocky for risking everything he's worked for by doing something stupid and boneheaded by firing a handgun in public, or his longtime friend and business associate for taking these shell casings to the police and claiming there was a serious attempt on his life. So, do you think this is a real crime that should be prosecuted, or do you think this is a business dispute that should have been handled outside of court? Do me a favor, post your comments and call it like you see it. Well, that's all I got, but I do appreciate your taking the time to join me on this legal deep dive. I think it's always fun to discuss these topics, tell you what I think, and get your feedback. I would really appreciate it if you took the time to like the video, subscribe to the podcast, and also I'd appreciate you sending me your comments so we can discuss the topics you want to hear about. That's it.